السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. مرحبا بكم أيها الطلاب الكرام. اليوم سنأخذ الدرس الثالث عشر الجزء الخامس. Today we're going to take lesson 13, part 5. Now, part 5 is going to be about الجمع المؤنث السالم. It's going to be about how to make a feminine noun plural, as well as the usage of hunna, which is how you say they or them for a group of women. But before we do that, back on page 71, there was an exercise 3 in which we were supposed to add al-dhamir to a word that ends with alif and hamza at the end. And there's a writing thing that we need to clarify. So it says, for example, abna'un, right? And the example will say, add it to a name separately, abna'u Muhammadin. Oh, actually, this has a hamza. Abna'u Muhammadin, right? So what happens when abna'u hum? What happens when you add this dhamir to the word? The unique thing about hamza is that it has a special dictation rule. And that is, for the one that ends at the end of the word, you are going to place it on the haraka that the hamza makes. So for example, this says abna'uhum. So it has a dhamma there, right? And by the way, there is this whole thing, and they take it in mustawa awwal, and it is, when do I place it on a alif, like the word qara'a? See, it has a hamza there, or it has a fatha there, so we put it there. Or you say, for example, this one here, abna'uhum, has a dhamma after that. And then you have the word, for example, like qa'il. Qa'il. You see how it has the kasra, so it goes on a ya. It had the fatha, it goes on a alif. It goes on the dhamma, so it goes on a waw. Now, normally, it's as simple as that. But then it comes into, is the hamza originally at the end of the word, or is it in the middle of the word? And then if it is, what is the haraka of the letter before it? And all of that comes into play much later, but to be quite honest, it's very, very technical. And just in this case, what we're going to do is just point out that on words that end with a hamza, alif and hamza like this, when you add something to it, just place it on whatever the haraka is on the hamza. So for example, asdiqa, right? See, alif and then a hamza. What's going to happen? Asdiqa. Where do I put the hamza now? Because we're going to put asdiqa'uhum. Is it going to be just straight on the floor? No, you're going to add that waw, because the hamza itself has a dhamma, so you put it on a waw. All right? Somebody may say, well, what if it ends with a kasra? Asdiqa'ihim. It would be like this. Asdiqa. You put it on a hamza, and you can put the kasra there, you can put the kasra here, it doesn't matter. Okay? And that's kind of how it works in that way. Now we can move on to our lesson. And like I said, there's a whole set of rules and exceptions. So if you want, you can probably find in Kitab al-Imla for Mustawa Awwal, for the first level in the Arabic, what's it called? In the Arabic Madinah course in Madinah. They have it in level 1 there, where it goes into detail about that. Now, turn to page 74. On page 74, we are learning how to add plural to a feminine word. we have the first word. He says, من هؤلاء الفتيات. It's a big word, فتيات. الفتيات. This is a plural. How do you know? Well, simply put, to make something plural in Arabic, or at least a feminine noun, plural, you're going to add alif and ta to the end of it. All right? Most of the time. So the single version of this is fatatun. So anytime you see a word, and again, most of the time, fatatun, you see a word that ends with this ta, if you want to make it plural, you're going to take that same word, right? Fatatun, and mostly you're just going to add an alif ta at the end. That's usually what you have to do, but you can't have this all scrambled like that. Fa, ta. Now try to say this. I'm sorry, I put a qaf there. Fata tatun. Try to say that. Fata tatun. Isn't that hard? And that's where the introduction of this yak came in. Now this doesn't happen with all the words, but it's happening with this word. So what happens is, to compensate for that, fatayat. All right? So this one goes out of the rule. They kind of just start you straight out with one that breaks the normal rule. But to make it simple for you to remember, you take the word muslima, right? Oh, that's backwards. Muslima. You take the same word, muslima, right? This one, what happens here? Add the alif and just push that tat to the end. Add the alif, push that tat. All right? Over here, you're going to say mudarrisa. We take this tat, we're going to push it to the end and put an alif here. Mudarrisat. And also, when we push this tat to the end, don't keep it like this. You're going to open it. Mudarrisat. Always adding alif and ta. Okay? Tabibatun or talibatun. It's kind of close. Talibatun. Talibat. The original part of the word, the ta, the alif, the lam, the ba, they're all there. Ta, alif, lam, ba. That's why it's called Jam' Mu'annath Salim. And all there was an addition of alif and ta, really. Talibat. All right? With this one, it has a little extra rule to it, but that's not the normal thing, so don't get too hung up on that. من هؤلاء الفتيات يا مريم? Who are these young girls, O Maryam? هن زملائي. How do you say they? Masculine. You say hum. How do you say it for feminine? Hunna. Like that. Okay? As shadda, fatha at the end. Will it end with a sukoon sometimes? Yes, sometimes ends with sukoon. All right? Is this always going to be a dhamma? People pronounce it differently. They might pronounce it, they might pronounce it with a kasra, hin. Okay? Instead of saying kitabuhun, they say kitabhin. Just people say things differently. Get used to that. There's a difference from how is it supposed to be, what's the original form, and how do different tribes sometimes say it. That's what happens. The original one, the one that's more common, and the one that the Quran uses is hunna. All right? Now, this is just on its own, not if it's being attached to something and how it can change, as it can change depending on what comes before it. But that's the original part there. Next, hunna zumala'i, or I'm sorry, zamilati. They are my classmates. So you have zamilatun, zamilat. Zamilatun is one female classmate. Zamilat, plural, is jam. Akhawatun hunna. Here I need to clarify akhawat, because it's confusing since the plural of akh that we learned ends with a ta marbuta. Akhawatun. Okay? So, akhawat is the plural of ukhtun. Ukht is sister. Akhawat is sisters. We learned ikhwatun. And that's hada, or jam'uhu akhun. Akhawat, sisters. How can you tell? The alif ta at the end. If it ends with alif and ta, it's feminine plural. Okay? This right here doesn't always mean that it's a feminine word. Now we learned that, wait a minute, Aisha, Khadija, Fatima, we learned that. But we also learned that there's names like Mughira, Hamza. We learned that sometimes, Osama, that the ta marbuta can be at the end of a masculine word. But most of the time, this ta means feminine, but here it is masculine. Ikhwatun, brothers. Are there other ways to say brothers? Yeah, they say ikhwan, But we'll, go into different plurals later on, inshallah ta'ala. Next, let's finish this section and then we can be through with this lesson. Next, we said, akhawatun hunna. Akhawatun. Are they sisters? Hunna. That's they. Na'am hunna akhawat. Na'am hunna akhawat. Man abuhunna. See, we have the word ab, and then we just added hunna, which we had here earlier. And so we've gotten used to adding hum, kitabuhum, baytuhum, right? Now we're adding hunna for them or their. Na'am hunna akhawat. Man abuhunna, who is their dad. Abuhunna al-Shaykh Bilal. Ummuhunna ustadati. Ummuhunna, their mother, ustadha. Ustadha is instructor, right? Say ustadati, or professor. Is my instructor, is my professor. Ayna baytuhunna. Baytu, na'rifu ma'na baytu. We know the meaning of bayt. And hunna is there. بيتهن قريب من المدرسة. بيتهن قريب من المدرسة. Their house is close to the school. نقف هنا إن شاء الله تعالى. We're going to stop here so we don't go halfway through the exercise. But basically, what you've learned is hunna is how you say they or them or their, feminine. And also you learned alif and ta at the end of a word means plural. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وإلى اللقاء والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.